Hi, everyone. It's the Movie Night Society once again. And if you can't tell by the background, we're talking about Skinamarink, which is the new, I don't know what to call this, experimental horror that got pretty big on social media. It got leaked at a film festival, and then everyone, like, they were like doing a virtual screening, and then it got leaked like accidentally, and then it got really big on like TikTok and Twitter and stuff. And then it went to theaters and it made over $1 million. It's like a big word of mouth kind of thing. This feels like this generation's like Blair Witch Project. I mean, I wasn't there for Blair Witch Project when it came out. I was like 4 years old, but just like that kind of word of mouth thing with like decent like kind of advertising and people talking about this like lo-fi low budget horror film. I think it was made for $15,000. I'm not sure.
Pretty small budget.
Yeah, 15,000. Oh, it made 2 million at the box office apparently. Um, and yeah, I don't know. We like the Blair Witch Project a lot. We have a review on that discussion if you want to check that out. And yeah, we generally like found footage. This isn't found footage, but it's like kind of has that feel to it
Mhm.
at times. And I thought I saw it in the theater, and I thought like, okay, I want Will to see this, uh, and I'm curious what you think because the reception to this is really polarizing. A lot of people,
I
I
can see
mean,
why.
yeah, I think like it's pretty easy to understand like why this is.
Yeah, calling it an
Yeah,
experimental like horror film is, I think, the best phrase for this type of thing because
yeah, it's
it's so different. Because I knew nothing about this going in except from what you basically like the like little synopsis is two kids wake up in the middle of the night, their father's gone, and doors and windows start disappearing. And that's all I knew about the movie. I think you told me like uh, you said something else about it too, like something like comparing it to Paranormal Activity, something like that. Like not comparing it, but I remember you bringing it Paranormal Activity. Like maybe it gave you the same type of like anxiety or stress watching it. I don't quite
yeah.
remember what you said about it.
I mean, it definitely has that like found footage kind of like sort of slow kind of like build, and you don't really see much in this movie. Uh, so yeah, it gave me that kind of like Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity kind of feel. Um, yeah, I don't know, something about the found footage, like kind of lo-fi genre gets me creeped out. Something about sort of grounding something like that is uh is always good kind of scary to me. But again, this isn't found footage. Like it's very much, I don't want to say cinematic. I mean, like it is a cinematic movie, but it's not like as conventional as other horror movies for sure. I mean, there's barely any dialogue in this movie. You
You
only
never,
really see the kids' faces like a couple times,
yeah,
and one time when you do, it's pretty
you
uh
see you see
scary.
more like doors and hallways and corners and shots of like the TV and floor. Like you see more objects than people
Yeah,
in
this is
this.
sort of like, again with Blair Witch, it's like all about the implication of like what could be there. Um, and we're gonna spoil things. We always do. So don't. I say watch the movie. I was kind of like, I'm gonna try to like sort of put into words how I felt going into the movie the first time. I thought it was going to be. I mean, I had a feeling I would like it, but I wasn't sure, how much or anything, because you hear it's experimental. Everyone says like, "Oh, it's just a bunch of shots of hallways." Um, but yeah, I was sort of thinking like, okay, is it gonna be like how much is it gonna like how much plot is it gonna have? Like how much like is actually going to happen in it? because I've seen some other experimental movies here and there. They're not generally my thing. I saw a movie called Sleep Has Her House. I forgot the director's name, but I heard of it like as a experimental horror movie, and it got like pretty good reception from people who like that kind of thing. And I was like, I'll check it out, and I watched it like alone on my computer in the middle of the night, like with headphones. It was a cool experience, but it was pretty much like you know, like 5 to 10 minute long shots of like footage of the woods that this guy filmed,
Mm.
and kind of put like ambient noise and stuff around it, and it's like an interesting experience, but it was sort of like after how many years of having seen that movie, I was sort of like, I don't really know what I got out of it other than it was just kind of a neat experience. But this one, I think Skinamarink has enough in it that there's enough of a through line that like keeps you kind of interested, and it's always like giving you like interesting details or like pushing sort of this plot forward. Um, I totally forgot what goal, where I was trying to
Where
end up
you're
with
going
this
with that?
thought. Yeah, but like, just like how I felt going into the movie, I was sort of like, okay, I don't know, kind of, it's gonna be very slow, and yeah, not much is gonna happen. But I think a lot happens in it, and the ideas in this movie are really conceptually scary, and I really was like kind of hypnotized and really immersed in the movie. How did you watch it? Did you watch it like at in the middle of the night?
I watched it when it was dark. It wasn't the middle of the night. I don't stay up till the middle of the night like some people.
Okay.
I watched it, I think, like probably around 7, 8 o'clock. So, but I watched it with no lights on, and I had my headphones on because I watched it on the computer. So I think that was a good way to experience this, especially with with something like this where it creates a lot of its like atmosphere and whatnot with the sound. The sound
Yeah, I
is like a huge factor in this movie that like will have the effect on you. So getting like the best kind of sound you can with this is probably like the best way to go.
yeah, definitely. Seeing it in the theater was really cool. I mean, great sound. Some parts were like honestly a little bit too loud, but it definitely like created that like anxiety. Um, and I really thought like I was kind of worried seeing it in theaters because I was like, they're gonna be people who were, just like annoying the whole time or talking during it or something, or like, am I gonna be as scared seeing it with a group of people around me as I would watching it at home? But I was like pretty creeped out, and I was really sucked in. I kind of like almost forgot I was in the theater for a little while. Um, so yeah, I think yeah, the sound is very important in this movie. Like you got to see it either like with headphones or just with a good sound system. Like I think that's kind of the best way to like I don't know, like watching like I can't imagine how this got big on like TikTok, like people looking at their phone like with I mean, I don't know, do people mostly listen to like their phone with headphones? I don't know. I don't.
Well, the biggest surprise is it being popular on TikTok is you'd think people on TikTok can't focus for more than 10 seconds. So to sit through something like this, um, that would be very surprising for me.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I didn't see clips or anything of like what people posted when it was kind of getting viral. I assume it was more just like, here's a clip. But I really think like I don't know. I don't think you've seen any David Lynch stuff, right?
No, I have not.
Okay. I I, I love David Lynch. He's like probably my favorite filmmaker, and this reminded me a lot of David Lynch because it's very again, very experimental, unconventional stuff. But there's something about David Lynch's movies. They're not like necessarily horror movies, but they are like they have scenes that are scarier than like most horror movies I see. And I think it's just because of the way he presents things. And something I thought about with the comparison between those, like Skinamarink and Lynch, is like David Lynch has a lot, like there's a lot of scenes, that are really scary when you watch the movie, and then when you kind of like take them out of context, they seem kind of silly. And that's it kind of reminded me of this. I mean, you could say that with a lot of movies, but I think like, yeah, I just wonder like how people got like, just a little snippet of something on TikTok or something, and then like were really scared by that. But I don't know. Um, I'm glad that the movie got popular uh, through anyway, because I think it was just kind of cool to see this movie in a theater. Like I've never seen a movie like this in the theater for sure. I think the closest was the original Paranormal Activity. Like I saw that in the theater, and this kind of had that feeling for me again. It was like, oh, this is awesome. But this only made 2 million, and I get that, like I mean, and for making it for only 15,000, that's pretty good. That's pretty good money back. Um, yeah, I don't know. We should talk about the actual movie. Like, it's a very simple plot. Like you said, it's these two kids wake up one night and their dad is missing. We're
I think
not really sure.
I think like before
Like,
that though, we get like a scene of like the father is on the
oh
phone
yeah,
with well, it's probably the mother, but at that point we don't know who he's talking to. You kind of can assume the mother because he's talking to somebody about like their son like, fell down the stairs, but they
yeah,
they were better now, like nothing like too serious. So you can kind of, at least I thought like, okay, he's probably talking to the mother, telling her that her son's okay.
yeah,
So that's like that's kind of the setup for the movie.
yeah. The first thing that happens is like the kid. There's Kevin and Kaylee, I
Kaylee, yeah.
believe. Yeah, and I mean, they're really young. I mean, like they say that he says that he's 4 at
Hmm.
some point. Um, and then Kaylee's probably like 6 or 7, I would
Yeah, I mean,
assume.
when you hear them talk, you can tell that they're pretty small children.
Yeah. Because yeah, you don't see them like really at all.
No,
I
you
think you
see
see
mostly
one
their
shot of
feet,
Kevin. Yeah, you see like one shot of Kevin, you
but
see
just
one
from their
shot of
voices
Kaylee.
alone, you can tell that they're probably like, okay, the youngest one, Kevin, sounds like he's like 4 or 5, and then Kaylee sounds like she's 5 or 6. So like the ages it says that they are like makes sense.
Yeah, and so Kevin like wakes up in the middle of the night, and well, Kaylee says that he was sleepwalking, but Kaylee's not really there, it seems, when he does it. Like watching this movie again, I was trying to pick up more on, the things that I maybe forgot about or didn't notice the first time. So it was like, yeah, there's already something kind of going on with Kevin and whatever this presence is, I guess. Or some people have a theory that like Kevin falls down the stairs while he's sleepwalking, and like some people have the theory that like the rest of the movie is like his sort of comatose nightmare, which I think is like a okay theory, but I like the idea of it actually really happening. Like that's scarier to me.
Hmm.
Um, because this is like a pretty scary concept, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's
Especially
funny.
because it's happening like to young children,
Yeah.
like it's sometimes in movies like if we're watching like a bad movie or something, like a fun bad movie, a horror movie, sometimes it's like, yeah, kill the kid because it's just like I don't know. I have a dark sense of humor, so it's like, okay, sometimes I want like them to be, I don't know, just totally dark. But I mean, like I do think like more things should treat like terror against children like this, because it's I don't know, it made me feel really like disturbed, just that idea. And I was watching some reviews of the movie after I saw it in theaters, and like one person like said like I couldn't even finish it because like I have kids and this was too like distressing. I was like, I could
Hmm.
totally see that
Yeah, I
because
can
it
see
is
that too.
very, very like uh yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, even like us, like, we don't have kids. Like, we were kids at some point. I feel like this brought
Yeah,
up a lot of
but
like,
you have a nephew.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, but yeah, we're all kids at some point, and it's like I think we all have a fear of the dark at some point, and it's like the idea of this
Yeah,
happening is like
it's like a universal thing for kids to be afraid of the dark. I was afraid of the dark as a kid.
yeah,
I think just about most kids are. But yeah, I
yeah,
think when you have something like that feels a lot more grounded like this, kids are defenseless. They can't take care of themselves. When they get in these type of situations, there's really nothing they can do. So it feels just even more tragic. Where as an adult, at least can have the capability to defend themselves, but like when kids are put in these type of situations, they can't do anything. There's no escape for them. Which um, what I looked into about it is kind of like also kind of like a theme of the movie is these kids being in this type of nightmare scenario with no way out, and that's could be kind of like what the doors and windows could be disappearing. Like the meaning behind that is that they're trapped and there's no escape.
yeah, yeah,
Because at
yeah.
first
There's like,
when I read like the description about that, I thought this was going to be like more of like a supernatural type movie because like oh like something is like causing windows and doors to disappear from like just based off the description, but it's like it's I mean, I guess you could interpret that it might be really happening, but I thought it seemed like it's just this is what the kids are imagining. It's not doors and windows aren't really disappearing.
I sort of thought it was more like, I think a lot of like pretty much everything in the movie I kind of feel can be taken very literally. Like, yes, the doors and the toilet are like disappearing. Uh but yeah, I do think there is like some kind of deeper meaning going on here, or just like a deeper kind of like, yeah, bring tapping into that childhood fear of the dark, and like the feeling that kids get when they're in like a perilous situation and they don't know what to do. Um, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's sort of like the outside world can be scary to like kids when you don't have your parents. Um, there's also like, I haven't really read too much about it, but I feel like I've seen a couple reviews say that like this movie is almost like a metaphor for like kids sort of dealing with their parents going through a divorce, because
Yeah,
that sort
I
of
saw
seems to
that
be
too.
what's going on in the beginning. Um, it's very it's very interpretable. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
there's one
Well,
answer.
no, but I think you can piece together some of that stuff. Like the father is by himself in the house with the kids, and he has to call the mother to explain what's going on. Like, why isn't she there? At nighttime with
Yeah,
them. And then just like some other scenes we get uh, later in the movie that kind of show that the mother and father might not have like the best relationship going on. So you can definitely interpret that way.
yeah. It's very, yeah, I like that there's a little bit more to chew on with this movie, because again, I thought this movie was going to be more just presentation and not like terribly substantive. Um, and and so one thing I want to say with the kids again is like, I really went into this movie kind of expecting like, okay, these kids are going to go through a nightmare, but they're not going to go through any. I mean, I guess we'll get to it. Like, they do go through like kind of physical harm, and that was really distressing too. Um, I don't know. I think it was just like, yeah, if you're gonna make like a nightmarish horror movie about these kids trapped in this situation, it's like you kind of have to go there in some way. But they don't go too far or anything. Like, I think it was. I mean, there's some things that are very like, if you think about, it's like that's horrifying. We'll get to it. I'm kind of jumping too far ahead. Um, because yeah, the first like, I don't know, 20 minutes of the movie are kind of like the kids slowly sort of getting into this nightmare, I would say. Um, like, okay, yeah, they can't find their dad. They wake up and like the dad's gone.
Yeah, things
Um,
get like progressively weirder as the movie goes on.
yeah, they I do like, there's like an innocence to this part of the movie. where I mean, it's kind of like when you're a kid and I don't know, like if your parents aren't home, like you and I mean, like you had a sister. I don't know if you guys did this, but like even just like if you had a friend or something and you're like kids and you're not really like parentally supervised at the moment, you like, they're like, can we sleep downstairs tonight? Like they're just kind of doing childish, like innocent things. They have like all the Legos like placed in front of the TV and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, and they watch cartoons.
yeah, these old
Everything they go downstairs so they
cartoons.
can watch cartoons on the TV. Yeah, yeah, something kids would do. It's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is like our chance to go and watch some cartoons.
Another thing I thought was interesting, just going to the beginning again real quick, is that you don't often see a movie where just like all the credits are right at the beginning, and then once we get to the end credit, it's like that's it, and then the movie's done. There's nothing like after that. Um, I don't know. Something about like the end credits showing up at the beginning of a horror movie like this made me feel really uneasy. I don't know why. It just made me feel like, okay, yeah, this is not gonna really let you breathe after it's done, you know? Like the credits are usually a point where you're kind of like, oh, and I guess you kind of feel that with the movie ending, but it like, I don't know, something about it. Uh, yeah, it like almost like doesn't give you a minute to think after the movie's done. Um, yeah, so like what happens? So like they like wake up, they kind of like go downstairs, um, because yeah, like there's doors are disappearing, um, which was like one effect that I thought was kind of weird at first. Like they show like the empty space of where the door or window was, and then they like do this weird like boom, like
Yeah, the
this weird
sound
like
effect.
yeah, this like weird sci-fi kind of noise. And then they show like what was there before. Um, they do it kind of more in this point in the movie, and then after a certain point they like don't do it anymore. Like when stuff starts really getting serious. Um, so it's like I don't know. It was weird. It made me kind of feel like strangely comfortable in a way. It made me think like, oh, this isn't going to be that scary. It's got these weird sound effects and these kids like
It's
worried
like it
about the
lured you
toilet.
into a false sense of security.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like the kids. I don't know. There's a scene. I'm probably going to jump around here because I don't have everything totally in order in my head, but they like go upstairs and um because the one they the bathroom in the downstairs area, like the toilet just disappears. So they're like, okay, well, we'll go upstairs, but Kevin needs to go to the bathroom upstairs, but he's like, I don't want to go alone. So Kaylee comes with him. Uh and then Kaylee like just looks into the parents' bedroom. I think it's the parents' bedroom, I assume,
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's where their
Um
bed and everything is. So
yeah. And she just like looks in and it's I don't know, all those like handheld shots in the movie were really creepy. Like once it just like goes up and like looks at the doll that's floating on the ceiling, and it's like the hell. uh and then there's like a jump scare where like Kevin scares her. She drops the flashlight and he's just like, I couldn't go. I was too I think he says like I'm too scared or something. And then they just like have this shot of the bathroom
bucket.
downstairs and
Yeah,
they just the buckets sliding into frame. Like that's funny. Like there's a little bit of humor in this movie at the beginning and then it gets very very dark. Um yeah, I don't know. I mean there's all kinds of things that happen like um the little night light in the hallway gets like unplugged by itself. It's just like lying on the floor. Um they this shot was creepy. Like when they just see the chair, they hear like a loud noise, and then they're just like they see a chair
yeah,
on the
on the
ceiling.
ceiling. It's like that's not
Yeah,
normal.
yeah, and I don't know. There's some like the shot of just their feet, like looking at it, like they don't know what to do. Uh, and I think what do they do? I mean, I think they're just like at some point, um, a voice starts talking to them. Uh, Mostly to
Yeah,
Kaylee
this
specifically.
really low, creepy, kind of demonic sounding voice.
Yeah, and it's it's like so quiet at times. Like some of the dialogue is so quiet that they have subtitles.
Subtitles, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was a cool kind of choice. Um, yeah, but yeah, like hear a voice, and I kind of like heard it the first time I saw it, but I was like, oh, is it? But I think it's like kind of like the father and mother's voices kind of overlapped with each other. They seem to kind of switch back and forth.
Hmm.
That's what it sounds like to me. Like I that's the impression I got. Um, so there's something going on. I'm not sure if I totally have a clear answer or anything, but I like that about the movie. It kind of keeps me thinking about it a lot. Um, but yeah, like they hear this voice, and it tells like Kayla to like come upstairs. Uh, just like really creepy. And then she goes upstairs, and like there's another like handheld shot, which was I thought this shot in the movie, like this whole sequence where she goes to the parents' bedroom, was probably the scariest sequence of the movie for me. Like nothing really jumps out at you until like the very end of the scene. But it was just like there was something about the idea. Like she goes into the bedroom, she sees her dad like sitting on the edge of the bed on the other side of the room, and she like goes over to him. We never like see his face.
Yeah, this scene was really creepy too because, for really the whole movie too, the father's gone. So it's like, okay, now he's back in the room. Like, okay,
Yeah,
was he gone? Was he not gone? The kids thought he was gone. Like, you have like a whole bunch of questions. Is this really happening? At least this was what I was thinking because, like I said, the whole movie is kind of like the father vanishes and weird stuff's happening, and the kids kind of don't know how to react to it. And then we just see the father in the bedroom again. It's like, oh, someone actually is in there.
yeah, it's creepy too because you're like, is it the dad or
Someone else.
is it this
'Cause
demon or whatever
Yeah,
like
because it's like
playing a trick?
we don't know what the dad looks like or anything, so it's like we have no idea of like who that
Yeah,
actually is. We just see legs. Somebody's there. Who it
yeah,
is, don't know.
and something like I'm kind of reading the Wikipedia now, just to like keep moving with the plot. But that we I kind of forgot this part where like um Kevin asked Kaylee where their dad went earlier. Uh, like where did dad go? And I think Kaylee says like maybe he went with mom, and it's I don't know. There's something like weirdly like the way that this bedroom scene plays out makes that line creepy to me. Like, is it or like have they been taken by this demon, or are they dead? Like they could be dead. Who knows? I mean, or I don't know. And the way that like okay, well, Kaylee goes in the bedroom, sees the dad, and the dad tells her like look under the bed. It's like fuck. It's like
Yeah, of
God
course
damn
you're
it.
kind of expecting like something
Yeah.
there. I wasn't expecting like a jump scare, but it's like I expected. It's like, okay, are we going to see like a pair of eyes? Are we going to see? You don't really know what to expect because the movie has really shown you so little. Um,
Yeah.
it's just giving you like a lot of shots of kind of nothing happening. So but you're always expecting something to happen. So that's a big reason why the movie is like so unsettling. That's, I think, the best way to put it is this movie's unsettling because you're always expecting to see something and you never know if it's actually going to happen or not.
Yeah, it's always tense because
But
you're
with like a
like,
look under the bed scene, you're just okay,
yeah.
something's happening, you're bracing for it, but then there's nothing under the bed.
I mean, like in the theater, like he says, like look under the bed, and you
Yeah,
just hear
yeah,
like
like everybody like,
so you can, yeah, you just hear people going
no,
like
no, 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 don't do it, don't do
like
it. Well, yeah, it's
It
like
was a-
because it's like this is a scary movie. It's like that's the number one rule is like don't look under the bed in a scary movie. There's something there.
yeah, but I mean, they're kids, and it's like when you're a kid, you're like, okay, you kind of do what your parents tell you to do, because you
Just don't look
kind of
under the
assume
bed.
it's for some, you know, like something important. And so she looks under the bed. She didn't see anything there, and then I don't. Does the dad say like look again or something like that?
Yes, yeah, it tells them to look again,
Yeah, and
and then you're again like, okay, something this time is gonna be there.
yeah, nothing. It just builds that anticipation, and then she like looks back from under the bed and sees that the mom is at the other side of the bed. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
with her
shit.
back turned.
Yeah, that
Never a
that
good
was
sign.
creepy. I mean,
Never a good
yeah, Blair
sign.
Witch. Um, and
Stand in the corner.
yeah, she's just like sitting there, and this scene like made me. I don't know. It was just like it was the moment that I was just like, this. The rest of the movies is not going to go well. Like she tells. She's basically just saying goodbye to Kaylee. It's like really. It was like weirdly sad. It just made me feel like, oh fuck, like these kids are just gonna be alone. Like here's this mom like telling her daughter like her father like you and we love you very much, your father and I love you very much. But then like she says like your father, and then like she gets cut off. Like what the hell was she gonna say?
Mm.
uh I don't know. Every like it this movie has enough like confidence in the direction that's like that cutoff feels very intentional. It feels like there was like it's just building some kind of mystery of like what's going on here. And it's really it's great. I love just thinking about what these things like kind of you know are like leave you with. Um, and then God, I don't know. I think the mom did the mom disappear? I can't remember. I watched it a few days ago because I was like I'm not gonna have time to watch it over the weekend in the middle of the night, so I watched it I think Friday. Um, but yeah, oh yeah, the mom tells her to like close her eyes, and it's like it's just like
Something's
it's
gonna
all the
happen.
thing. Yeah, it's all the things that are like okay, it's a jump scare is coming. Um, but then like I think she opens her eyes, and then I think she looks either in the closet or I thought it was maybe the bathroom, like maybe the parents' bathroom, and like she's just like looking in there, and the camera like kind of slowly zooms in, and you just hear like someone kind of I don't know like struggling. You just like hear someone kind of in pain, and then like you just hear like something snapping. It's like it's such a like a gruesome image that it conjures up without showing anything. But like something has probably killed the mom or the dad or both or whatever. um and then yeah, just this really really quick uh moment where a hand reaches out and like touches the wall that she can see, and then it just like cuts away from that to Kaylee like going back downstairs with Kevin. Like this whole scene was just like, oh, it was so creepy. I can understand like that maybe this like whole movie doesn't do it for you, but I this scene I thought in particular was like,
No, there was
how can anyone
definitely
not be
like it
scared by that?
was it was all
It's
watching it. I
tense.
felt very like unsettled during a lot of scenes like this. Some of like the other scenes where there's not as much kind of going on is like not as engaging for me. But scenes usually like this in the movie, I think pretty engaged in. So and I felt pretty tense. And I think like some of the stuff later in the movie, I definitely had goosebumps. So
Yeah,
but there's definitely some legitimate uh unsettling scenes in the movie. This one definitely was one of them.
yeah, and it's
It's
definitely
it's
like
funny
just
because like
keeps
the movie for me
building.
was kind of like this, where it's like I get like the slower parts, it's building, but because this movie was like an hour and 40 minutes, I think I'd prefer if it had been a little shorter, like an hour. I
I
think that
could
would have
see that.
worked like a little bit better for me because there were.
I
I'm not
sup-
gonna lie, there were like some points where I was like kind of checking my phone and like, okay, I get why it's doing this, but it's like it could go like a little faster for me.
I think I felt like that the first time I saw it, I felt that way. I was kind of like, yeah, I think maybe 10 minutes or so could have been cut from the beginning, or like, just here and there. Second time I watched it, it surprisingly flew by for me. Maybe
Hmm,
it was just because I knew what was coming and I was sort of like, okay, I know something's going to happen soon, so I'm not like totally bored. Like I'm kind of focusing on what's going on
yeah.
because
The
I know
second
something's
time,
going to
especially with a
happen.
movie like this, like because when I watched The Blair Witch the first time, and then when I watched it the second time, it felt like such a different experience.
Yeah, and
So
it's interesting how, like, I mean, I was still scared, maybe even more scared this time around, even though I knew it was going to happen. Like, I think there were points where I was like, that wasn't as effective as when I saw it the first time. But by the end of it, I was like legit, just like kind of like this the whole time. I was like really, I don't know, it just like made me so on edge, uh, in a good way, and it was just I really liked it. But let's keep going with the plot because after this, um, let's see. I mean, Kevin, well, Kaylee, I liked this very like kind of innocent, childlike sort of way of like being like the problem's not there or is it's solved is like Kaylee's just like help me move the couch and they move the couch in front of the hallway that like goes to the upstairs. um I don't know, there's something kind of like funny about it. um but at the same time it's just like, oh my god, that's all they can do. Like really, it's like what else can they do? They can't like really fight this thing. um they don't really know what to do, they don't know what it is. um yeah, and then um let's see, like Kaylee gets called by the voice again. um and Kevin's like asleep, and this is like one thing that I really like paid attention to this the second time around was like the Skinamarink. I call it the Skinamarink, the demon, because I don't know, because otherwise the title basically has no meaning. I don't know what it means. I think I talked about this before we started the video, but like it's taken from an old like children's song, I guess.
yeah,
Uh, so and I think I read something where David Edward sorry, Kyle Edward Ball, the director writer, um, said that like he just liked the name of it, like the sound of it. And it's a good title. Like it just kind of sounds good. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna call the entity the Skinamarink because
fair
that's
enough.
it never says its name or anything. Um, uh, but yeah, so like the voice Skinamarink like calls out to Kaylee, and then the Skinamarink just goes around and like places a bunch of like Legos and stuff that they have downstairs, just like on the wall, like suspended on the wall. It was fun. It was like weird. The first time I watched it, I didn't get what was happening there. I was like, okay, things are just moving around. And then when they showed the shot of the wall, I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, the Skinamarink just moved them around on the floor. I don't know why. I didn't realize like he was putting them on the wall or it or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, it's just placing everything on the wall. Um, that's like one of the things that we'll kind of get to later, but the Skinamarink has this like playfulness to it, which is just makes it kind of creepier. Uh, and then uh, yeah, Kevin goes down to the basement and sees Kaylee. Uh, and this was another thing I didn't understand what was going on until you see this image. But like Kaylee is like talking back to Kevin, or yeah, to Kevin, I keep wanting to say Kyle because it's the name of the director.
Mm.
But Kaylee's talking to Kevin, and she's like her words are like completely mumbled, and they have subtitles for it. Um, and then yeah, you see this jump scare where you see Kaylee's face, and she has no eyes or mouth,
Yeah, that
and
was a
it's like,
pretty
oh
creepy, especially with headphones in and everything, and the sound.
yeah,
Like, oh, made me do that. I
yeah,
mean,
that was really
kind of
freaky.
kind of a given when like the movie's relatively quiet, and then you get scenes like that. So of course that's gonna kind of make you like, ooh,
Yeah, it's like I
still
could
pretty
see some
unsettling
people
though.
maybe I could see some people calling those things those moments like excuse me like kind of cheap, but I don't know. I think it like
I, s-
earned
I
the
think out of
the scares.
an hour and 40, and it really only doing that twice is fine.
Yeah,
It's not like they're doing it every 5 minutes or something. Yeah, like I said, I think doing it twice out of the whole movie run, it's not like they use it in an effective way. If
yeah,
they
and
don't overuse jump scares, like if they use them in effective ways, then I don't really have a problem with them.
yeah,
Because I
and
think that's
I
something
mean,
that like it's totally like not what we're talking about, but Dead Space comes to mind where like Dead Space has some jump scares, but like not as many as you'd think. So I think when it uses jump scares, like it doesn't feel like they're just trying to get a cheap scare out of you to me. So that kind of felt like the same thing I felt like watching this. It's like not overusing it. The way that they're doing it is effective enough, and I don't have any issues with that.
yeah, it's not like in Paranormal Activity where it's just like the cut to
Oh yeah,
a different a
that's not a
different
good
shot
way to
is like
use a jump
it's
scare.
just yeah that's like cheap. Yeah, here it I mean like the image is so I mean for one thing it's important to like what is going on that like you realize that Kaylee just has no mouth and no eyes and what a scary idea like just that this entity can just take things away from you like that um and then after this like Kaylee's not in the movie anymore, she's gone. So I think like that moment I felt kind of needed to be punctuated by a pretty intense kind of moment like that. Because after this, Kyle's on his own, this 4-year-old kid. Um, and then, uh, yeah, we get like some scenes where like the Skinamarink is kind of messing with the cartoons that are playing on the TV, and there's this one of like a rabbit. Yeah, I think it was a rabbit doing these like kind of magic tricks and stuff, and then it keeps looping this like part where the rabbit does this with its hands and it disappears with its hands. It goes like and it disappears. It keeps replaying it, and then it does it like the final time it does it like one of Kevin's toys disappears. It's like, oh, this thing can okay, yeah, yeah, I can just make things disappear completely. I mean, like we kind of know that already, but I thought it was like a neat way to show that. Um, and then I think they like play that music again later. Um, and I kind of felt like they cut to a shot of the cartoon again when they do it the second time. I was kind of like, you could have just played the music and I understood what was going on because they like played it so much earlier. um, but yeah, so like that happens. Things just kind of generally get more tense and then the Skinamarink says that wants to play. Um, it opens a drawer in the kitchen and then kind of like cuts to a shot of like the dark hallway and it just says like, "Put the knife in your eye." And then we just, God, we just kind of hear the knife, and then kind of hear Kyle or Kevin screaming, and then like pretty quietly at first, and then really loudly. Um, yeah, yeah, it was just like again very unsettling, very distressing. That like this kid, just stabbed himself presumably stabbed himself. I mean, maybe this demon like did it, but just that this kid is like all bloodied with like a punctured eye is just like and they don't even need to show it, you know. They show some blood on the kitchen drawers, and that's like enough. Like you get it. It's distressing. um Another thing I wanted to mention too, because I mentioned the part where the sound kind of like gets louder when it cuts, like it kind of like shows a shot of a hallway and Kyle's screaming. You can hear it faintly, and then it cuts to like kind of a closer by location. Um, like I think it's just like just outside of the TV room, and you hear the screams like a lot louder. That's something that kind of like in this movie, whenever a shot cuts like that, like the sound changes like that, just sort of the background noise. Um, and I mean, like we've kind of made videos together, but like, and I edited them, and you know, if you if you just have shots that you know record the sound on the camera, you're gonna get that,
Hmm.
but it doesn't feel cinematic. You know,
Yeah.
most movies have like either a room tone that you can put over the whole thing, over the whole scene, and get a consistent like sound, so that you're not just like cutting weirdly the audio. But here it like I don't know, it works. There's something more distressing about it, and with like the film grain and everything, it kind of makes you feel like you're watching an old home movie. And that's another thing too. This movie takes place in 1995. Um, it specifies that for really, it doesn't feel like there's a reason to it, but I kind of assume that's probably when the director was like a kid. And I mean, I was born 1995. You were, I assume, like Kevin's age at 1995. Um, did you like look at anything in this movie and be like, oh, I remember that. I remember like those toys or anything.
Just
I kind of feel
obviously,
like
they.
I just
I mean, they played with
Legos.
Legos. Obviously,
Yeah,
Legos are still kind of around. I mean, the only
I feel
toys
like
you
I
really
might
see,
have
like,
had the Fisher Price
I
toy
never
or
had that.
phone.
Now, wasn't
I
that
feel like
also
I
used in
did.
Toy Story 3 though? Like that phone?
Yeah.
That's what I recognized it from, because yeah, I never had one of those growing up. But I was like, I recognize that toy.
Um. So yeah. Getting back to the plot, like Kevin. Yeah. Uh. Stabs himself in with the knife in the eye. Or again, maybe we don't see it happen, but um. Then Kevin picks up the phone, and they tried to dial 911 earlier and it didn't work. And this time it does. Kevin gets someone on the phone, um, and the operator, you know, is asking him all the questions like, where are your parents? What happened? Uh, and again, it's just, I don't know. It's like when you see on the news, like they play like a 911 call. It sounds like that because of like the audio in this movie. Um, and it just makes it sound so, it makes it sound real. And just the way like the operator or you know, yeah, the 911 operator is just like talking to him very realistically. It feels like an actual conversation that would happen, which I was really expecting it to go like like the guy is going to say something totally out of place, and it would make it feel like, oh, it's just the Skinamarink playing a trick on the kid, you know. um but yeah, then the operator says like, why are you whispering? Like, is there someone else with you? It's like, oh god. It's
Hmm.
just like I don't know, it's just creepy. And then the Skinamarink just turns the phone into that like Fisher Price phone that you see behind me. uh and it's just like, again, this thing is just like toying with this kid, almost like making it like a, I don't know, this demon is almost like a kid itself. in a weird way. It just feels like playful but sinister. Um, and then what happens? Let me look at the Wikipedia. Um, yeah, the operator tells him that there's going to be adults on the way, but we kind of know that's not really going to happen. Although for a minute, I think the first time I saw it, I thought maybe there will be some kind of happy ending here.
Mm.
But then it's like, no, wait, how would they get in? How would they be? How would they get into the house with no doors? Uh, and then, um, let's see. Um, oh yeah, that phone, the Fisher Price phone. I guess it's called a chatter phone.
Mm.
Um, and then, oh yeah, after like the phone gets turned into the chatter phone, Kevin asks Skinamarink, like, "Did you do that?" And then it just says like, "I can do anything." And it's like, oh my, yeah, it's like just like imagine that really happening. Just there's just like some entity that basically wants to like be around you and play with you, but yeah, I can do anything, and it's yeah, this demonic presence. And then the Skinner Ring says like Kaylee wanted her parents back. Uh, Kaylee wanted her mom and dad back, uh, and wouldn't do as I told her. So I took her mouth away. It's like, oh my god. Uh, so like, not only if you can this thing just do whatever, but if you don't do what it says, it'll really do something horrible to you. Um, and then let's see what happens next. I mean, I think this is really just kind of entering the end of the movie, this kind of final sort of passageway into the ending or whatever, whatever you want to call it, into this void. Is there anything I'm missing before we get to the end?
I don't think so. Pretty much
Okay.
covered everything verbatim.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, the Kevin takes a flashlight um after the skin ring tells him to come upstairs. So he takes a flashlight and goes upstairs. And like seriously, like at a certain point, every time they change to the handheld perspective, I was just like, oh fuck. Like I was like, oh god, it's just gonna get even more tense. There's something about the way like the camera creeps around and stuff is like really freaky. Oh yeah, there is one shot earlier that I didn't mention that I'm not really sure what it was, but there's a shot earlier on of just like someone's like the top of their head is at the bottom of the frame. And like the way that I'm like this whole movie is so tense that like just when that happened, I was like, ah,
Mm.
just like, what is that? Is that Kaylee? Is that the mom? Is that what is that? It doesn't show it, I don't think. Um but yeah, that's like again, I can understand some people not being into this movie, but I don't know, just for me, it was like super sucked in, and like the fact that the movie could like just kind of pull something like that was like I think a testament to like how tense at least I was during this movie. Um, but yeah, so like getting to the end, Kevin like walks upstairs and he like enters the bedroom. Um, no, he goes upstairs and like he he's like on the ceiling, uh, just like the chair in the beginning and like the doll, and then uh he like goes into the bedroom and it just like starts to it just like shows this shot of the bedroom, or I think it's the hallway. But it's like where all the like all these toys are in there. They're just like collected into this one room, and then just slowly like it does these fades to further and further back, showing this room, and it just becomes a void. I thought that was really creepy. And then the movie says, I think this is like it's one of the most perfect title placements I've seen in a movie. It just says 572 days. It doesn't say what that means necessarily. It just says it, but you like totally. I mean, like right away, I was like, okay, this kid's been there for 572 days, which is just nightmarish, just completely like. Again, this kid is 4 years old, or I guess he'd be five if a year passed. But like this young kid is just is trapped with this thing. That's scary. I also like just a subtle thing, but I like that it didn't say like. I mean, how many days would that be? It's like a year and basically a year and a half. It doesn't say like a year and I'm trying to calculate in my head, but I'm just trying to what like 200 and like 7 days or so. It doesn't say that. Like I don't know why, but like the 572 days, it makes you like consider how much like a day really is
Hmm.
compared to like just saying it's been a year. Um, I thought that was just like a great title because like I don't know, everyone in the audience was kind of like, oh, uh, and then yeah, we just kind of get some more nightmare stuff where uh uh we just see like you know well there's two kind of major things that happens. One's with the chatter phone, which this shot was great. I love this shot where it's
Yeah, that
just
part
like
was
this.
pretty unsettling because you just see
Yeah, this
like
pair
the
of
eyes,
eyes
and it's like they
and the
look really big, and it's like I you don't know what they are, you don't know what they're
the whole
from,
audience was like
pretty
like when
much,
that happened.
you know.
And then yeah, when he shines the light and it's just this phone, everyone's like, oh, everyone kind of like has a sigh of relief, and then it like jump scares you with this like the phone rings and the face changes. Uh and that was great. I thought that was pretty effective. And then another thing that happens is like we just see this shot of I guess the hallway. But it's like I think it's supposed to be the ceiling, I guess, because like now they're kind of on the ceiling, I guess. And we just see like we kind of hear Kevin crying, and then we just see like a blood splatter go like into the frame, and then the blood goes back and then goes out again, and it just keeps repeating. And it's like I feel like you could either take it as like it's just a sort of reinforcement of the idea that like Kevin is just there being tortured by this thing over and over for like this long, or that the Skinamarink can like literally just kill you and then put all your blood back and you're fine, and then kill you again repeatedly as much as it wants. I thought that idea was really freaky.
Mm.
And then we see the shot was great, like where we see the bed, the bedroom again. We see a figure at the other side of the bed. I assume it's the mom.
That's
That
what I
was sort
thought
of
too.
my yeah, that
It's,
was sort of what I
I mean,
thought.
you can clearly tell it's a female figure,
Yeah,
so you just kind of assume it's the mom.
I'm assuming it's not Kaylee.
No, I think it was the mom.
It seems too like big
Yeah,
of a person to be like a kid,
yeah.
and then just that figure slowly fades away, and then we see like kind of a face in through all the film kind of grain, and Kevin talks to it. Uh, and I guess we can assume it's the Skinamarink or this whatever this is, but like it says go to sleep, and then I don't know why something about this like is freaky to me. Like Kevin doesn't ask it like why it's doing this or anything like that, or where am I? Am I going to see my parents again? It just wants to know its name. Like Kevin just wants to know what this thing's name is, he asks it like 2 or 3 times, and it just doesn't reply. It just sits there in silence, and then the movie ends. And I don't know, it's so creepy. uh yeah, I don't know. I can see this not being for everyone, but the ideas in it and the execution of them, I was really freaked out by this movie. It doesn't feel like a movie, and I think that does come from like the unconventional style, but it really feels like it's almost just pulled from this like demons kind of like world in a way. It feels like you're just kind of like seeing glimpses into this nightmare world. Um yeah, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of the talking. I mean, like, what did you now we can kind of get into, I mean, I've kind of said my thoughts, but like what did you kind of think overall of the movie? Like, you know?
Uh, well, I thought it was very unsettling like the whole way through. There were definitely times, especially like some of the scenes where it goes into the parents' room and some of the stuff at the ending that definitely had me on kind of the edge of my seat. And I definitely was getting like some goosebumps and chills during some of it because it is really unsettling and creepy, just not knowing what's going to happen. Because this movie really doesn't show you a lot. So when it does kind of give you little glimpses into some like creepy stuff, it makes you pretty frightened, I guess you could say, or very anxious at least. I think anxious,
Yeah.
like for me, is a better word because I was never really frightened watching this movie. There were just some parts where I felt very tense and uneasy, but I don't know if I'd say I was scared. But
Yeah, the scares for me were more like because the movie does go for long periods of silence and like not really much happening, and then it'll do like a really loud noise. Like that's
yeah,
obviously going to kind of like startle you.
yes, that's gonna scare you. I mean, that's just kind of when you go all that period of time with like just silence and then there's sound again. It can, and I'm like an easily startled person, so it doesn't take much, unfortunately. Um,
I really want to watch this movie with Dustin.
I, I was gonna say like at the end, like
I
someone
was like,
like Dustin, or someone like Dustin, who
like,
is so fun to watch like Paranormal Activity with because like the build up, she's just like gets more nervous and nervous like the more and more it builds up. This movie would torture him for sure. Like if you are like hate the build up to something is coming or you think is coming, then this movie would be like really hard to get through for some people. Um, yeah, I looked a little bit more into the movie too about how I think the director kind of took inspiration from people's nightmares and dreams. And that's really like what it feels like is like these kids are trapped in a nightmare world, kind of like you said, like there's this scary voice talking to them. They can't get away from anything because the doors and everything's vanishing. Their parents are gone. And I think when we get like those long periods of not a lot going on and like even though like the movie for me felt like it went on too long. I get why it did that because when you're in a nightmare or having a bad dream, every second of it feels like it's too long. You want it to be done.
yeah,
So I get what they were going for with that, and I think it was an effective way to do it. Like I said, just I think, and maybe I'll change my mind on a second viewing, but I would have liked this to be like at least 10, 20 minutes shorter. Because some of it, like I said, where there were times where it's like, this is building up to something like, but I don't think anything's actually going to happen because of just how the movie's been going. I could tell when the scene would lead to nothing and I would just kind of be on my phone and then like, okay, nothing really happened there. Like I just, it's not like there's really like a really pattern to the movie, but I could just like you're doing so much build up right here, and you've done this like at other points, so I don't think anything's actually going to happen here. But that's what made the scenes like with the bedroom almost more effective because of that.
right? Yeah.
So, but it's like a catch-22 for me because, like I said, I'm not gonna lie, there were just points like, okay, I don't think anything's gonna happen here. Look at my phone, still going. Look at my phone. That might not happen a second time watching, but that's how it was the first time watching. Um, so it's like I don't like that, but I get why it's there, and it makes other scenes more effective. So it's like I guess you could say I'm mixed on it. Like this whole movie kind of mixed on. Um,
Yeah, I do feel like those slower scenes, like I don't know, they kind of feel needed just to like kind of get you in the mindset of the movie in a way, like to kind of like
yeah,
put
I
you
can
into
see.
this
Like I'm
like
not saying
wavelength.
I get why they did it. It just I could tell when the movie was like not gonna do anything. And
Right.
again, I get like why it did that because it makes the other scenes almost more effective, but it still felt a little bit of a chore to watch to get through. So, like I
I
said,
could see that. Like
yeah,
I
it's like
honestly can.
I could, yeah, I could do with like some things being trimmed down a little bit for me personally. Because I don't think I was quite as like tense or scared watching this as you from just what how you're describing it. Which it's going to vary from person to person.
Yeah,
Um,
especially like just like being scared. That's very I feel like that's very subjective.
yeah. But especially from like looking at some comments and some reviews and everything, I think this movie's like pretty effective of getting people in the mindset of like you're trapped in this nightmare with no way out, and we can all kind of relate to that. You still might not find it scary, but you can at least understand it. So I really respect the director for being able to do that because that's not an easy task.
Yeah, and I do want to say like it's totally fine not to like this movie, but I will say reading like a lot of reviews and a lot of negative reviews, it was sort of like annoying to like see people say like, well, it's just shots of hallways, it's just shots of corners in a house. And then a lot I saw like, video reviews and a lot of them were like, imagine just like shots of this. Here, I'll show you. And then they just like shot footage with their phone, like of like corners of their house and stuff. I was like, okay, I think the movie does a lot more than just that though. Like I think this movie
Yeah,
builds
it has a
a
purpose
really
for
great,
doing what it does. So
yeah, but even like story wise or just like kind of conceptually, this movie builds this like real sense, like this real threat. And I think that's what I really liked about it was just I felt, you know, it's kind of like with the Blair Witch Project where like it almost stopped being scary and tense to me at a certain point and just became sad. Like I was just like, these characters are just in a completely inescapable
yeah.
like nightmare situation.
Hmm.
And especially because they're kids, it's like extra like hurtful. And I'm like laughing, but it's just because I'm like, I don't know how else to like process it. It's so it like just that idea. Like I can't even imagine being in this situation, like as a child. I can't even imagine being
As an
in like
adult, it'd be
as an adult.
terrifying, but as a kid,
Yeah. Like, oh geez. Like God, that 572 days thing. It's like, oh my God, that's horrifying. Yeah, so again, don't have to like the movie or anything, but I think like it seems reductive to just say that it's like just shots of hallways. That makes it sound
yeah,
lazy. You know what I
yeah. I
mean?
think it seems like a little disingenuous. I mean, you can just say like, I get because like I get like what the movie was going for. It didn't like scare me as much, but it still like made me feel very unsettled. And I
Yeah.
get like even when I say like, it feels a little bit long. Like I get why it is that way, and like I get what the director was going for, and I still think it was effective to have it be that long. Because, like I said, it does make the scenes where some stuff does kind of happen feel more effective because, like, all those other things where it has all this build up, but you don't get anything. And then when you actually do get something, it just is kind of more scary. So, like, at least, like, be genuine about, like, you don't have to, like, be scared or be into it, but, like, at least understand why the director did what they did and, like, go with that at least.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like slapdash. It doesn't feel like it's not. it like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Nothing feels lazy. Everything like feels intentional. Like he there's a purpose behind just showing like this or just showing that or not showing this.
Yeah.
So it's like again, people can find it boring or whatever, but like don't be like, oh, this feels lazy. It's like, nah, I wouldn't agree with that.
I say watch Sleep Has Her House and then go back to this movie, because that is a movie where I liked it, but it was very much like I could describe it as it's just shots of the woods. Let me go out, and it's like the guy literally filmed like stuff with his iPhone. Like it was all shot on an iPhone. But it looks gorgeous. It looks good. Because I think he color corrected it well and everything. But like it is like, yeah, okay, this guy just went to the woods and just shot rivers and waterfalls and like trees and stuff, but he made it feel sinister. Like there is a presence in that movie, but there's not like as much to chew on. There's nothing tangible to it. Again, I think Skinamarink, like there is something there that is clearly being like built up through the movie. The sense of dread and the threat. I also just kind of, I don't know, I like the way the movie kind of feels, if that makes sense. Like I like the way it looks. I like the sound. Um I don't know. It's like it's like something that I don't know if I'd watch like a lot because it was so distressing, but it's yeah, I think I really like it. Like obviously. Like um so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of what else to say about it. Um I want more movies like this. I want more like lo-fi kind of horror movies. I feel like it's been so long since we've gotten like a real scary found footage movie. Again, this isn't found footage, but just like that type of movie.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
feels like the closest. Although there is a movie called The Outwaters that is coming out soon that I've heard a lot of buzz about. It's a found footage movie. It sounds really nightmarish. So I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe lo-fi, low budget horror is like coming back in a big way. I don't know. I'd love to see like that movie get, a few million at the box office as well. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just think this movie's cool, and it's a directorial debut. Like it is his first like feature film,
Yeah, that's
which
a
is
pretty
pretty.
impressive part.
Yeah, and I think he like kind of crowdfunded it. Um, he has a YouTube channel. I think it's called Bite Size Nightmares, and he basically did like what you said, like where you seem to take inspiration from people's nightmares. He literally just kind of like asked people in the comments of his videos like what kind of nightmares do you have, and then he made them into little like 5 or less minute shorts, which I haven't watched them yet. I was kind of planning on doing that before this video and I forgot, but I don't know. I think this is like a pretty cool like way to, I don't know, debut into the horror world. I mean, like so many horror people I follow, like horror movie fans and stuff, seem to really like the movie. Um, so I say like give it a shot. Like if you really don't like it, you really don't like it. That's fine. But I think it's
Yeah,
worth
it's
seeing.
it's probably not going to be for everybody, but
Yeah,
it's
but check it out.
experimental, like for a reason. So
Yeah,
if it can make you feel like you're trapped in this nightmare world with no way out, and if you can kind of imagine yourself as a kid in that situation, like it could be a pretty, at least if it's not scary, like unsettling experience.
yeah.
So like, should we go
Um,
into like ratings? Like, do we want to rate this movie?
yeah, I want to hear your rating for it first. I'm
Okay.
curious.
I think I would give it like a 3.5.
Okay, that's actually higher than I thought you give it based on what you
Yeah,
said. But
it's experimental. I wasn't, I think, like as unsettled as other people watching this. But I was definitely unsettled like throughout the whole thing. It has a very good job of like setting the tone and atmosphere, making you feel uneasy. And even though it has these like long periods of things kind of like not happening, which made me kind of look at my phone a couple times, not gonna lie, but like understanding why they're there at least, and like this is what he's going for, it's gonna make this stuff more effective. And the stuff that is effective, like is effective. And I like kind of like the experiment to this movie. There's like nothing I can say that I've seen that's quite like this. And I'd say overall, like he succeeds in like what I said earlier, making it feel like you're in this capturing the feeling of being in like a nightmare that's never ending and there's no way out, especially like as a kid, because everyone I think can say that they've had nightmares as a kid where you're in the dark and there's like a monster in your closet or under your bed and it feels like it goes on forever and you just want to wake up. Yeah, like that's really what he's I think trying to make you feel here, and I think he does a very effective job at it. And yeah, I think it succeeds in that. So yeah, I could see myself like watching this again, but I think I would wait a while to kind of like almost see if I can forget stuff and then see it again, or like see it with someone like Dustin would be like a pretty kind of fun experience. So yeah, those are my thoughts. 3.5.
Yeah, yeah, seeing it the first time, I honestly seeing it the first time, like there was a part of me that was like, this is probably going to be a 5-star like movie at some point, but I was like, I'm going to give it a 4 at that point. And then after the second time I watched it, I was like, like, I mean, it's always like I always feel like the experience, like how you feel about the movie right after it ended, is a lot different after you've given it some time to think
Yeah,
it
definitely.
over. And I gave it a 4.5 after I watched it the second time, because I was like, yeah, there are some parts that are slow. Like, yeah, there's maybe like some stuff wasn't as effective for me the second time around, but I don't know, just like I can't stop thinking about the movie. Like I can't stop like just picturing certain shots in the movie. Like the final shot of like just the little face is so creepy. Like there's just something.
Well,
It's I don't know. It's like hard to explain. You
there's
know, it's
usually
like
it's usually a good sign if you can't stop thinking about something, then
yeah,
like, you probably like in this case you liked it.
yeah. And I mean, I think it's probably like in my top 5 scariest movies I've seen. Like just ones that personally really affected me. I'd say like Blair Witch is up there. Blair Witch Project, not the 2016 one. And I'd say like Lake Mungo was up there for me, and it just scared me. This maybe I don't know. It's like there's parts of me that think like maybe it's number one because it really did affect me pretty heavily, and like I think I got to give it a 5. Like I know that it's not gonna be that for everyone. Like there's no way, but I really enjoyed it. I really want to see what else like this director can put out. I really hope he makes another movie soon. Um, and I gotta watch his shorts. This was based on one of his short films called Heck, I believe is the name of the short version. Some people found that more effective. I think it's like 20 minutes. So, maybe if you don't like the full Skinamarink, go watch Heck, go watch some of his short films. Because they're probably pretty great. Um, yeah, I don't know. I love the movie. Like it really scared the shit out of me. um, I gotta admit, like after I got home after seeing it in the theater, I was like kind of like it's like, oh my god, I'm just gonna like my brain is just gonna make me see the images from the movie as soon as I turn off the lights and try to go to bed. You know? Like I'm gonna get freaked out.
Well, it's a sign it was effective then.
Yeah. So 5 stars from me. But again, don't go into it expecting the greatest thing ever. Just like go in, get immersed. I don't know if it's still in theaters, but if you can, I say watch it in theaters. And if you can watch it at home, it's on Shutter. Watch it with like headphones. Watch it. I think just the sound is the most important thing. Like watch it with
Yeah,
good
make sure.
sound.
Yeah, that's what I would definitely say too.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it for Skinamarink. I think Skinamarink. I think Skinamarink. Rink. Think. I think. I think that might honestly be how the song goes. I feel like you like might subconsciously know this song
Maybe.
because I think it goes like Skinamarink, a rink a dink, rink a dink a doo, something like that. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
We'll look into this later though. So next time we're going to discuss Rocky 4. That'll be a couple weeks from now. And then a couple weeks from that, we'll talk about Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, or whatever it's called, the recut, the Rocky 4 recut. And then we'll continue on with Rocky, unless something else comes up. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this movie, and I wanted you to see it, so I thought it would be a good discussion. So
There you go.
that's it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you did, bye.